Hi guys, I'm back again with some more stories for you today. Let's go to the first one, about OP, who received her father's inheritance, and now her sister, who got almost nothing, demands OP shares it with her. But, well, there's a reason why OP's father left her with nothing. Listen to the story to find out the reason, and of course to hear my insights. Enjoy the stories, guys, and don't forget to like and subscribe. And of course, don't forget to leave a comment. My dad recently passed away and left me 95% of his estate. He only left my sister a token amount, presumably for legal reasons to prevent her from coming after what he left me. Includes cash, property, stocks, and is easily several $1,000,000. I should mention here that my dad didn't leave me any message as to what to do with the money. So I genuinely don't know why he left me as the sole beneficiary, because as far as I know, he was on good terms with my sister. My sister obviously is expecting me to split it 50-50 with her. I have no desire to because of her past behavior. Specifically, 1. She had an affair with my ex-husband that destroyed our marriage. She's now married to my ex-husband and has kids with him. 2. She outed my son after my ex-husband confided in her about him being gay. He had only come out to us at the time. We hadn't talked in over 10 years before all of this. I've gone out of my way to avoid her at family gatherings. She's tried to apologize a couple of times over the years, but I've ignored her messages because I've never been able to forgive her, especially when she's still with my ducking ex-husband. Today I told her to duck off and that she'll never get a cent more than what our dad left her. Everyone, and I mean everyone in our family, is calling me a greedy B-word. But if our dad left it all to me, presumably he thought I should decide. Am I the a-hole? I'd assume OP's father left the majority of the estate to OP, specifically because OP's sister stole her family. That is unforgivable, and he probably changed his will after he saw what happened and how it affected OP. He was trying to make it up to OP in some way. So OP shouldn't listen to the family and remind them what her sister did. And now let's see if the community agrees with me. Lynn 1987 says, "Not the a-hole. Your dad was a savage. He knew exactly what he was doing, why he was doing it, and played nice to your sister to keep her placated before he died. I guarantee you if you talk to a lawyer about this, which I recommend, he gave her just enough and not a penny more to keep her from contesting the will. He played the long game and he won." Ernie Bernie 123 says, "Not the a-hole. If your dad wanted her to have some, he would have left her some, like he did. He has his own reasons for doing what he has done, and it's in no way your fault that he did what he did." A Spicy Boy says, "Not the a-hole. People are dumb as crap. There's no mistake that he had reasons for leaving one kid an exorbitant amount more than the other. All that money was meant to go to you. Why should you be called greedy for literally keeping what your father presumably did not want going to your sister?" The background. My ex and I divorced about 13 years ago. I've remained friendly with his mother since she's my son's grandmother, and she has always been kind to me. My ex and I generally get along with occasional conflicts. I try to take the high road, and I've let many things slide. He remarried about 10 years ago, and frankly, his wife hates me. I just try to avoid her and be businesslike when we must communicate. I am not a confrontational type person. Now the story. My son, a teenager, asked me recently if I'd gotten a Mother's Day gift from Mama, what he calls his grandmother. I said no, and he replied, "I knew it. I heard them talking and they weren't going to give it to you. Stepmom said she doesn't understand why Mama would still be giving you gifts." So apparently she sent a gift via her son, and they decided not to pass it along. It was almost certainly a red envelope with some cash, as that's what she normally would give. The main things I'm angry about are how disrespectful this is to his mother, and that she probably thinks I'm ungrateful for not thanking her. I hope this has never happened before. I'm thinking of talking to her directly and asking if it's true. If my son is mistaken, he should know so he doesn't think so badly of his dad. But if it's true, which I'm inclined to believe, I might be stirring up family drama. So would I be the a-hole for talking to her first? I agree that OP should ask, but I think OP should ask her ex-mother-in-law. I'd bypass ex-husband altogether, as he seems like he's massively under the thumb from the new wife, and he'd probably lie to OP. It's not being nasty, it's trying to get to the truth. If OP's ex-mother-in-law has given her son a gift to give to OP, then that's what should happen. Seems like this new wife is having way too much involvement in situations that don't concern her. She shouldn't be hindering a good relationship between OP and her ex-mother-in-law, or OP's ex-husband. She needs to keep her nose out of business that doesn't concern her. And now let's hear the community's opinion. Long Jumping Check 3181 says, I'd ask your mother-in-law, and I'd likely do it like this. Son asked if I got your Mother's Day gift, and I wanted to check in with you because it didn't come in the mail. I always appreciate how thoughtful you are and would hate to not have said thank you. It doesn't throw your ex under the bus and gives your ex-mother-in-law a chance to handle it how she sees fit. Kaylee the Blaze says, I think it's reasonable to ask because, as you've said, not acknowledging the gift may be hurting your relationship with your ex-mother-in-law and harming how she views you. It'll also let her know that if she wants to give you a gift, she can't trust her son as an intermediary, not the a-hole. Introverted Bookman says, not the a-hole. If your son is right, your ex and his wife stole money from your former mother-in-law after presumably having agreed to pass it on. After all, ex-mother-in-law wouldn't have given it to them if they said, no, we refuse to hand anything to that woman. Also, why should your relationship with ex-mother-in-law possibly suffer through you seeming ungrateful for a gift she believes you received? My ex-husband and I were together for 12 years, dated for 5, married for 7. And had 3 children before we got divorced after he came out to me as gay. I was greatly in the wrong for the way I first reacted. I said hurtful, uneducated things and accused him of using me. My parents, who knew he was gay before I did, told me to stop centering myself around his coming out. I wouldn't have been so enraged if children weren't involved, and if he had been more upfront about his S to me. After we got divorced, my ex and his husband started a relationship and eventually got married. My parents are very friendly with my ex and his husband. I can understand and sympathize since my ex's own family is incredibly judgmental and keep pressuring him to marry a woman. My ex's husband is a lovely man we've known since high school. Although I'm jealous of him, I can't bring myself to hate him when he's done nothing wrong. A few months ago, my ex and his husband announced they were expecting a child. My parents got really excited. A little too excited in my opinion. My mother proposed the idea of going baby shopping for clothing and essentials while my father posted about the news, and even told my ex about all the things he'd love to do with his child when they're older. I felt off about the way they were treating my ex, but when I tried communicating with them about my feelings, they shut me down. I was worried about how my ex would handle 4 kids, 3 of them with which he shares custody. I again expressed how I felt, to my ex this time, and my parents inserted themselves into the conversation. They said I need to stop trying to police my ex's life and let him live freely, since he, I quote them, wasted 12 years with me. I was ready to flip a table. They were only thinking about him, but never me. I didn't say anything to not cause any issues. Last week their child was born, and they hosted a celebration the day after. I congratulated them and gave presents, but didn't attend as it was my day with our 3 children and didn't want the children to disturb the baby. My parents had promised to come over and help take care of the children, but they bailed on me last minute to go to my ex's baby welcoming celebration. I held back my anger and hung up on them, then called my sister for help. After a few hours, my parents showed up at my doorstep. I told them to leave because they made it clear to me that I'm not important to them. Therefore, they're not worthy of seeing my children. They called me childish and repulsive, but I kept ignoring them and refused to unlock the door. After a few hours, I received a text from my ex asking me if I was okay, and spammed messages from my parents about my outrageous behavior. I can understand why they're protective of my ex, but I think they're crossing the line. I'm biased and bitter though, so am I the a-hole? Info. My parents found out about my ex's orientation only a few hours before I did. I'm glad they didn't out him to me, but it hurts knowing he trusts them more than he trusts me. My ex, his husband, and I were all friends in high school. He and his husband have always been intimate, which made my sister suspect they were having an affair, or at least an emotional one, but she's biased too. My ex didn't know he was gay for the majority of our relationship, so I highly doubt he was cheating on me. OP's parents seem to have forgotten he lied and wasted 12 years of OP's life too, which is much worse than OP being upset they keep putting him in front of their own daughter and grandkids. They are complete a-holes. They need to start caring about OP's feelings more than her ex's. Good for OP for standing up to their nonsense. OP is entitled to feel any way she wants. She was wrong and hurt by her ex's inability to be honest. 12 years and 3 kids, and nothing will ever be the same for OP. OP deserves so much more compassion from people who are supposed to be there for her, not an ex. And now let's hear the community's opinion. On to Greener Pastures says, not the a-hole. This man essentially used you as an incubator and wasted several years of your life, not the other way around. While you shouldn't have reacted the way you did, but anyone would be devastated by having their partner reveal that their marriage was a complete lie. Shame on your ex for using you, and shame on your parents for not cutting this guy out of their lives, even though it's hurting their actual child. Focus on your children and yourself. Live your life in a way that would make up for just how much you missed out on while you were married to someone who was lying about loving you and used you to get children that also had their lives uprooted by his decision. It's awful that he comes from such an environment, but you shouldn't have been put through this. Princess of Pomade says, your parents have a new child, your husband, and it happened way before the divorce. You have a right to be angry at them. You're not going to be able to keep them separated from your kids because they'll just go visit them at their new son's house. I suggest you block them on all media, return any gifts, and go on with your life. They've made their priorities clear, and you need to concentrate on yours. It's clear that they care more about your ex than they care about you. Find someone who cares about you and concentrate on your kids, not the a-hole. My husband and I, 54, set up college funds for each of our children before they were born. We've been quite lucky, and now each account could pay for 4 years of private college, easily. The issue is with our oldest, 24 female. Let's call her Natasha. She's married to her wife, Miriam, who is a nice girl, but has no ambition whatsoever. We split the cost of the wedding with her parents. Miriam has a master's, but her job is something with little kids with problems, and it's only part-time. She also has a condition that I don't want to get into too much here that makes her more burdensome. We paid for Natasha's college out of pocket, reasoning we can save the college fund for grandkids, etc. She first got a job when she graduated, but then she wanted to go to grad school. We said, okay, we will pay for your grad school as long as you study hard and be responsible. Recently, the girls started making noises about taking foster children into their home, an apartment very close to campus that we pay for. We said that's probably not a good idea, but it just went in one ear and out the other. Natasha texted the other day saying that her tuition for spring semester is due, and after discussing it with her father, I asked if she was still planning on taking in foster kids. She replied that they were almost done with the process and could have their home open in as little as a month. At that point, I texted a calm and measured paragraph explaining that we couldn't support them anymore. The whole point of paying for everything is so that Natasha wouldn't have to work, not so she could be distracted and deal with someone else's kids. Daughter-in-law Miriam called me and was kind of awkward. I explained my reasoning, and she said okay. She said Natasha's grades probably aren't going to go down at all from having a kid in the house, and I said that would be nice, but you don't know that for sure. I said there's plenty of other ways they could do community service together, even with Miriam's condition. She agreed there probably are other avenues. My friends all have different opinions. Some don't understand why Natasha doesn't have access to her college fund since she's over 21. But all I can say is she just doesn't. One thinks I'm the a-hole because Natasha's already done 1 month of work for the semester, and they already have the furniture for the child set up. So, Reddit, am I the a-hole? Edited to add, it would be completely different if one of them had their own baby, and I told them as much. The state more or less reimburses foster parents for what they spend on the kids. The issue from where I'm standing is more that I don't think she should be studying and doing 24/7 charity work at the same time. The college savings account was set up so that we stayed the owners, even after Natasha came of age. I don't know exactly how, but that's how it's set up. There's enough money in there to pay for 8 years of education several times over. It's not about that. When she got into grad school, we said we would transfer it over to her. But then once she got started, we realized it was a better financial move to pay for each semester out of pocket. Edited to add, again, none of the kids ever had control over their education funds, but rent, tuition, and extras got paid every semester. The others honestly were always much more respectful of our generosity. They joined social clubs, frats, hung out with kids with good families, and presented very good image. Natasha might need a little more direction because she often tries to present a bad image, driving Miriam's ugly car when we offered to get her a new one, old clothes, hair not done, etc. We even offered for them to live in a nice area while Natasha studies, but they insisted on the cheapest apartment possible. Like I said, we're generous, and they don't appreciate it. They even wanted to have very small wedding, which would have been disrespectful to a lot of family members not invited. But fortunately, we compromised on that one, and everyone was happy. No, we never specifically discussed rules with any kids, but I think it's clear that he who pays gets to say. Certainly her siblings have never had any trouble with it. Do Locksmith 9039 says, probably an unpopular opinion, but not the a-hole. Your daughter is a grown woman, married and on the cusp of expanding her family, all the while not paying for her own lifestyle or education. Yes, you set up a college fund, and I think you should pay this semester, since it's too late for her to back out. But you can stop paying for the rent. You save the money for her, but ultimately it's your money. I don't think she is entitled to it. It's time for them both to figure out their own path, money excluded. Call My Michelle phone says, not the a-hole. You paid for her college education. That is beyond what many kids get. On top of that, you paid grad school and rent? That's a lot of money they are taking from you. Wanting to take on foster kids is a noble and compassionate act, but not one they should focus on if they can't afford their own rent. I think it's fair to say that if they choose to take on this life-altering venture, then you should choose to change your level of financial support. Past Searcher says, you're the a-hole. The way you describe your daughter-in-law is incredibly ableist, and I don't understand why you don't want to allow your daughter to use her college funds to pay for college. Fostering children is a beautiful thing to do. It's perfectly possible to be in grad school while raising biological kids. Why do you think it's a problem to study with foster children? You should be proud of your daughter and daughter-in-law for fostering, and support them all the way.